Thank you both. So I saw one hand for grad school students, right? Two. All right, cool, thank you. And so the rest of the undergrads, as Philip said, this content, this material is applicable to everyone, whether you're 17, 18, or 30 or 40. And what we try to do is give you pathways and options to taking just more control of your financial situation. If you're 17, 18, you may not have had financial responsibility much in your life yet, but you're transitioning towards that, certainly through college and as you go into grad school or professional life. And so what we want to help is just make that transition to more control, more ownership of your financial situation possible. We did this last spring. We've done sessions all over campus, grad students. We've done worked with entrepreneurs, undergrads. The best questions we had were from the music students last year. And I'm not saying we were surprised by that, but after thinking about it, it made total sense. And I teach finance classes in the business school. And so you might think my finance students would really be on top of things. Some are. But by far, the music students had the best questions. And we were thinking about it, it made sense. Whatever you're doing in music, you are natural entrepreneurs. Whether you're just creating by yourself, or you're in a group, or you're playing at church, or whatever, you are natural entrepreneurs. And Dr. Jonathan Culp has been a big partner with this for us too. And he talks about his journey and playing in bands and playing gigs and getting $100 on a Friday night and then not knowing when your next source of income was going to happen. That lifestyle, that professional track, you have to take ownership of your finances. You have to take responsibility. You can't assume that you're going to get a paycheck on the 15th and 30th of every month or every 2 weeks like my finance students might. And so it was wonderful working with the music students last spring. And so this year we've got the fall. If you look at the handout, I think the handout's probably in backwards order of what I might talk about, what's relevant. The bottom of the back page, we're going to do 3 sessions in the spring. We're planning on 3 sessions in the spring. Not in here, but maybe on Zoom or maybe in small breakout rooms where it's not homework, but where we have activities and it's more consulting, where we have activities for you to take more ownership, take more responsibility, to learn about investing, to learn about retirement planning. If you're 18, retirement planning may seem really stupid and abstract, but there are great benefits to you being 18, 20, 22, 25, whatever, to beginning to think about retirement planning and putting in a little bit away, and there's tax benefits and there's investment growth benefits and all sorts of benefits. So we'll go through these different things through 3 sessions in the spring. And kind of just really looking forward to working with all of you. I'll go through the handout a little bit. We'll talk about the books. The books that Philip mentioned, we've got 2 versions. 2 versions here today. They're both in the back there. The equipment's taking up the tables, so I put them in the chairs, just in the last row on this side. A couple books. There are 2 versions. The original version has the red binding and the red cover, and it's personal financial planning for college students. And this was a kind of a generic version for all college students, whether you're 18 or 30-year-old grad student or whatever, to think about different aspects of financial planning. And then I was doing some entrepreneurial programs in the community, and then certainly after I did this session with the music students last spring, we decided we needed an entrepreneur version. There are many issues that we covered in this session last spring that's not covered in the college student, whether that's building your entrepreneurial team, thinking about taxes, thinking about incorporation. And so the version in the back that has the blue cover, black binding, blue cover, it's for entrepreneurs. And I'd love it if you take a copy of this or the college student. If you're 18 and not sure if you want to be a professional musician or that track, then maybe the red cover one's more appropriate. If you're really excited about being a professional musician looking to incorporate entrepreneurial aspects into your career, then by all means take the blue version. That's the pitch. They're back there. Please take them. Lightens my load. Before we get into the handout, the topics, today's October 5th. 6 weeks ago, the Department of Education announced changes to student loan and federal student loan debt. If you have student loans, let me back up. If you have federal student loan debt, you may be eligible to receive $10,000 in relief by the end of this year, or up to $20,000 relief. This was announced 6 weeks ago. You're probably familiar with it. You probably heard about it. The whole program that they announced 6 weeks ago has 3, 4, 5 different components. The headline one, the sexy one for students certainly is the $10,000 or $20,000 of relief. That is $10,000 or $20,000. $10,000 for, in theory, all borrowers with federal student loan. There's a lot of fine print on this, and it's a work in process. And so when I say in theory or probably, we're still waiting for a lot of the details to be applied. But it should be $10,000 per borrower of federal student loan debt. If you have private debt that you got from Bank of America or JP Morgan, you're not eligible. Sorry, you're not getting the $10,000. But if it's Department of Education federal student loan debt that you got through FAFSA, FAFSA is free application for federal student aid. And so if you obtain student loan debt through your FAFSA application directly, it's probably Department of Education, and you are probably eligible for $10,000 of relief. If at any point you've received a Pell Grant, Pell Grant is just a grant, a gift to subsidize your educational expenses that you may have received through the FAFSA process at some point in your life. Whether you received $10,000 Pell Grant or a $5 Pell Grant, you should be eligible for up to $20,000 of student loan relief. You're wondering, how do I get that? Today's October 5th. When the plan was announced, the Department of Education said, we will open the application in early October. Last week, they gave an update and said, we're going to open the application in October. So we got rid of the word early, but they're still sticking to the October. The application is not open as of this morning, best I can tell. But hopefully it's open soon. What do you need to do? Your students, maybe you're still financially enmeshed or supported by your parents. The student loan is at the student level. So if your parents took out debt on your behalf, it's probably in your name and on your account. There might be exceptions, but it's probably in your name. The debt relief will be yours. So what do? Go to studentaid.gov anytime, check it for the application, check if the application window is open, and if it is, you apply, you enter your income, verify that you made less than $125,000 in either of the last 2 years, and the $10,000 or $20,000 relief should be applied. We've done sessions on this, and we do 80, 90-minute sessions, and we still don't go through it all. But I wanted to just mention that, remind you to check your studentaid.gov account and see if you're eligible for relief, see if you can apply for relief, and if you can, take it. It should be very easy to apply. The Department of Education has all your information. All the mechanics and logistics are happening on their end in Washington. All you have to do is verify your income, confirm your enrollment status maybe, and wait for that $10,000 or $20,000 credit to be applied. Studentaid.gov, or if you know your student loan financial aid servicer, the financial institution that's handling that you're maybe making payments to, or your parents are making these payments to, or that send you emails or messages, they are the intermediary that processes it, so you can contact them too. But FAFSA.gov or studentaid.gov is a great place to start. Anyone have any questions on the student aid loan forgiveness thing? Again, I can't do it justice in 5 minutes, but be sure to start by looking at federal student aid. Yeah. So the question is, if you have a private loan with Citigroup or JP Morgan and a federal loan, you're not eligible. If you combined them, consolidated them, you're not eligible. If they're separate, you'll get the relief on the federal, but not the private. Once you combine them, then it becomes a private, and I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed by that over the next 3 months. didn't realize that they were giving up the federal status. But if you've kept them separate, your federal will get relief, your private likely will not. Yeah?
So even if you have like a small loan, you just get $10,000 or that only get enough?
Cool question. So you have a $6,000 loan balance. Do you get a $10,000 check or do you get the $6,000? You get the $6,000 relief. Nobody will see cash. If you look at your account statement, and one day it'll say 6,000, the next day it'll say 0. And one day it'll say 16,000, the next day it'll say 6. So it'll just be a kind of behind the scenes processing with the Department of Education and the servicer. Nobody's getting checks or envelopes of cash. And the relief is up to the balance. So if you have a $6,000 balance, you're getting 6,000. Good question. What else? Yeah.
How much is the student loan?
0. Well, nothing is free. There's no price. There's no charge. It's just your time. So the workshops we'll do on the back page. Dr. Ben Yates will coordinate this. We'll coordinate with them. Again, probably on Zoom, maybe in person. We're open to either, but we'll make them available probably outside of this time, maybe 4 to 6 p.m. or something like that, a few different dates. And those are designed to be consultations. We'll give you kind of activities, but they're really designed to be consultations for specific issues that you may be questioning, wondering. Yeah, cool, thank you. What else? The student loan, yeah, the student loan forgiveness, this has never happened before. And so the good news and the bad news, the bad news is the logistics are really difficult in Washington. Not necessarily for us, but the administrative stuff is very difficult. For me, I haven't had student loan debt for 20 years, but I'm crossing my fingers that everything goes smoothly for those of you with student loan debt. There's no guarantee that it will, and there have been lawsuits and small changes, not necessarily small changes, but changes to the plan, the initial plan in the past couple of weeks. So getting this thing done is a significant task, but that's the maybe bad news. The good news is it's a great opportunity just to get $10,000 or $20,000 in relief. And forget about the politics or the policy aspects of it. If you have debt, take the relief when and if you can. Yeah.
So if you were to take out federal loans now, would it be now, or is that only
Yeah, so the question is what's the date or the effective date of the loans? I've seen mixed messages. I saw, so they announced it on August 23rd. I saw one message that said debt that was active as of the 23rd. I saw something else on studentaid.gov in their FAQs that it was the debt as of July 31st. I think if you went out after this session and took out $20,000 of debt, I think you're going to be out of luck. So I think if you take out debt today, do not expect the relief. I think it's a little bit unclear if you took out debt for fall semester, normal timing, kind of August 15th. Would that apply? I've seen mixed messages. There is a statement on studentaid.gov in the FAQ that says, all federal debt that was in place as of July 31st is eligible for relief. So to me, I think that's the cutoff date. We'll know more once the application portal opens, I think. But yeah, I'm not going to get political, maybe a little bit. But just kind of from a political angle, the administration wants this to be a huge success. And so if there are hiccups or problems or complaints, they maybe want to bury those or hide those. And so as we're looking for information, we want clarity, and I think we've got kind of 80% clarity, and the other 20% will come out in the next couple weeks, hopefully. What else? All right, anyone have any financial goals? Anyone have any financial dreams? Any financial thoughts? Anything? So for me, the point of these sessions, the point of these conversations is, the point of planning is flexibility and freedom. The cliche I use that I think is on the handout, money doesn't buy happiness, but it can create opportunities. And whether that's opportunities for you to be in school, for you to go to grad school, for you to buy a house, for you to travel, for you to take a year off and start a band, or just have that decision, do I continue with my music career, or do I get a desk job, or whatever. And so, by managing and controlling your financial life, you can create opportunities, you can create freedom. And that's what it is for me, that's what these sessions are about. And that's what we're trying to help you get more control over whatever issues you may have. So we've got the workshop, so yeah, I'm going to kind of go in kind of backwards order. Remind you, we'll start at the top of the back, and then we'll kind of get to the 15 activities on the front that you could kind of think about and conclude. Some general philosophy, some general morals of finance, and as I said, question about the sessions. In finance, nothing is free. Doesn't mean you're paying cash, but you're giving up time, or you're giving up opportunity. If you think a financial advisor is your friend, if you think an insurance advisor, a tax advisor is your friend, you're wrong. They're not. They want your business, and that's not corrupt or anything, that's just the nature of the relationship. But nothing is free. I work with my finance students and they want to invest in Bitcoin and NFTs and Ethereum because they think that's the secret to getting rich. Maybe, if you time it right, but it could be the secret to going broke too, if you time it wrong. And there are millions of investors trading in Bitcoin right now. They're all trying to get rich off of it. Some are betting that it's going to go up, some are betting that it's going to go down. It's not easy to time it right and to be that lucky winner. We can look at stories. You might have heard of GameStop in the past couple of years. Some Dogecoin winners and big losers. And there have been winners who time investing perfectly and get rich off of it. It's really hard to do. And it's really kind of speculative and risky, like going to a casino, if you're trying to get rich with investments. Nothing is free in finance. And so the cost potentially is risk or volatility that you're undertaking. Risk, volatility, uncertainty. I invest $100 in Bitcoin today, maybe worth 70 tomorrow. That's risk, that's uncertainty, that's the price of that gamble. And so nothing is free. Personal finance is the art of balancing short-term and long-term priorities. That is probably as true, the most true for college students. When we do these sessions with grad students and college students, it's always, it's great because it kind of just clarifies this trade-off between short-term and long-term. You've got to get through this semester, you've got to get through exams, you've got to get through midterms, you've got to get through, performances, whatever. You have to be able to pay tuition in January, you have to pay rent every month. And so you've got these really intense, significant short-term financial obligations. And so when Bolton stands up here talking about long-term investing or long-term planning, what happens in 2030 may be meaningless if you can't get through this semester. And so, yes, your priority has to be paying your bills and getting through, every semester, every class, from day to day, from term to term. But when possible, have an eye to the future, have an eye to the longer term. If you can start investing, whether it's $10 a year or $100 a year, $1,000 a year, in your 20s, by the time you're in your 30s and 40s, that's just opportunity. It'll grow, should grow. It'll grow and create just opportunities and open doors for you to do many different things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So, balancing short-term and long-term. As I said 5 minutes ago, professional advisors, they don't work for free. Be very careful whom you work with. We do these sessions to hopefully give you more control over your actions and make you less dependent on others, whether that's a tax advisor, a lawyer, an investment advisor. If an investment advisor ever tells you that they've got the secret, they know exactly which stocks, investment securities you should be investing in, they're lying. They're salespeople. And because they don't know, they can't predict the future. Stock market was up 3% yesterday, it's down 2% today. Nobody alive can predict that. Why doesn't it just kind of balance out and do nothing both days? It doesn't, because people are constantly guessing. And if an investment advisor tells you they have the secret, they're lying. And so be very careful about whom you work with, be very careful about giving your money to people that may not have your best interest at heart. Having said that, there can be some financial advisors, professionals, who can make your life a lot better. Tax accountants, for example. The tax code would be tens of thousands of pages long. Tens of thousands of pages. Nobody alive knows those the tax code perfectly. But we all depend on it. We all need it. When we have income, we have taxes. And so working with a tax accountant to understand the 5 or 10 key tax issues that matter to you, and especially if you're entrepreneurial, musician, you don't have a traditional paycheck, your tax situation might be very different than mine. And so working with a tax accountant to get specific, situation-specific guidance and advice could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars to you. So be very careful about who you work with. The cliche professor advice, your reputation and your time are the most important things you have, the most valuable things you have. They don't show up on a bank statement. It's hard to put a financial price on it. But if you can control your reputation, you control your time, your future is going to be pretty bright. And then, as I said, money cannot buy happiness, but it buys opportunities. And so, thinking about balancing the short-term and the long-term priorities or obligations that we all have, and certainly students, the short-term obligations are finite and intense. Right? If you can't pay tuition, what do? You might have to drop out. And so, getting that balance right to achieve your long-term goals takes planning. And so the bottom, the footer of the handout, a goal without a plan is just a dream. And so what we try to encourage and try to support is getting a plan. And there's a few ways we try to help you build this plan. One, the bottom of the back page, those 3 sessions, the consulting sessions, we're going to try to do that and work towards building a plan. As Philip mentioned, today at noon, we've got a grad student program for designing an investing plan, an investing roadmap. You want to get into investing? Okay, great. We all want to find the next GameStop, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, whatever's going to go up by 10,000% over the next week. Those are really hard to find. So if we have a methodical or an appropriate, obviously methodical maybe sounds boring, but if we have an appropriate, personalized plan roadmap for what we want to do as investors, it's a great place to start, right? You know, I'm tone deaf, I have no musical ability, but I think some of the best music, you start with a plan. You start with an idea of what you're trying to do, and certainly if you're working in a band or choir or orchestra, you've all got different roles and responsibilities of how to complete the project together. Having a plan makes the product better, and that's if I talk music, I'm way out of my depth, but certainly in finance, having a plan helps you get to those goals much smoother, much easier. On the front, I made this handout, so I should have at least put it in order I planned on talking about it. But on the front, we've got the first diagram, and this diagram is kind of what I keep coming back to all the time. We're all trying to achieve some type of happiness, whatever that means to us, however you define that. Maybe it is purely financial. Maybe it is purely the numbers on your bank statement or your investment account. Or maybe it's relationships, maybe it's religion, maybe it's purpose, maybe it's knowledge. Whatever happiness means to you, we all achieve that through some combination of short-term and long-term goals, some combination of financial, personal, career, educational responsibilities and goals. And getting that balance right is a challenge. And we all struggle with it, but by being intentional, we can all make progress towards it. Just checking the clock. Any comments, thoughts, anything? Any specific questions, finance questions you have, kind of beyond debt or beyond anything else? Cool. So on the front, Dr. Yates and I talked about having kind of a to-do list. And so we created this to-do list across 6 different categories on the front. And start with budgeting. Budgeting is not the sexy part of finance, personal finance, but it's the meat and potatoes. You've got to have it. If your expenses are greater than your income every month, that's a problem. Of course, you're a student. Many students, very normal for your expenses to be greater than your income for month. And that's why we have student loan debt, that's why we have other debt. If debt becomes a lifestyle, that can may not be sustainable. If debt becomes a tool to achieve your goals, that can be really beneficial and really smart. And so everything starts with budget and just that management of income and expenses. And so what we've put down here is 15 ideas for you to think about, 15 activities for you to challenge yourself with. If you can look at these 15, and if you can do, they're not all activities, some are ideas, but if you can do maybe 3 or 5 of the actual activities to challenge yourself, to taking more control over both your short-term and your long-term financial situation, you're going to be a lot happier. You're going to be a lot closer to getting that balance right. Budget, number 1, pick 2 or 3 months a year. I do this every month. In other classes, I've encouraged people to do October, February, and July. Track every penny you spend. Sit down with pen and paper, pencil and paper, calculator, go really old school. Don't rely on apps, don't rely on bank statements. Sit down old school and track every penny that you spend. Cash, automatic payments, whatever. Track every penny that comes in too. You may have different sources of income. You may have 5 or 10 sources of income. Track every penny of income, and for those 2 or 3 months a year that you're tracking this, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror and see, what am I doing? How's my behavior? Does my behavior line up with my goals? Am my financial actions beneficial to what I want to be doing? And every time I do this, and I've obviously been practicing a lot more than most of you at this, every time I do it, I find things that I can improve. And hopefully over time, those things get smaller and smaller, but there's always things I can improve. Subscriptions. You can cancel subscriptions, so this is point number 4. Cancel at least 2 subscriptions by the end of the year. We all have tons of subscriptions. There's subscription creep. My mom was talking to me about a subscription yesterday that she signed me up for something for life. And no, Mom, I don't need that. You can cancel that. And it took her hours to cancel, but it was totally worth it. And we all have subscriptions, some we don't even know about that's being charged. Every year when the Amazon Prime charge hits my credit card, I'm surprised. And then, oh yeah, it's a once a year thing, it's not a monthly thing. But then I take 2 seconds to think about it, or 5 minutes to think about it. Do I benefit from that? Do I really need 2-day shipping on everything? Right now, apparently I do. But subscriptions. Think about your subscriptions. And this all starts by looking in the mirror. Look at your financial situation. Look at your behavior. Something that was big for me in my 20s, not to share too much like who I am, but drinking. My alcohol budget kind of between 20 and 23 was a lot bigger than it needed to be. And so then I made an intentional shift that I wouldn't go out drinking with my roommates, or I would have a beer or 2 at home before going out. And whatever habit, maybe it's coffee, maybe it is alcohol, maybe it's online shopping. If you look in the mirror and you identify what your behavior is, your financial behavior, that financial behavior has a cost. And maybe it adds up to debt, maybe it takes away other opportunities. But if you can manage that behavior, those habits, you'll be a lot happier as a result. We talk about habits a lot in these programs. Phil does a lot of work with dissertations and theses, and if you're doing a dissertation, it could be a 2 to 5 year process. One paper or one project for 2 to 5 years. And what you're really building during that period is not necessarily just knowledge, but it's professional habits. What you're doing in college, certainly what you're doing in music when you practice, you're developing habits. What you're doing in college, you're developing social habits, you're developing study habits, and whether you know it or not, you're developing financial habits. And these financial habits may or may not be with you for a long term, depending on whether you choose to embrace them. And so this is the perfect opportunity. Look in the mirror, identify your behavior, identify your income and expense behavior, and make sure it aligns with what your goals are and the habits that you want. So I talked about subscriptions. For 1 week a month, I always throw this one out there. Sometimes I say for 1 month a year, don't dine out. No eating out for 1 month a year. And everyone laughs at that, as if it's impossible. Can you go a week a month? Pick a week, 1 week a month, and no dining out. No coffee, no drive-through, no fast food. Can you go a week a month without dining out? Make yourself a peanut butter and jelly, or make yourself pate or whatever your thing is, it's not necessarily about the money that you're spending, it's about the habit and taking more control of that behavior and certainly the spending. You can't go a week, go 1 day a week. If you can go 1 or 2 days a week, you can go a weekend. What behavior modifications can you make that align with your personal financial goals? Analyze your insurance policies. You see commercials on this about all the time. I check my insurance policies once, maybe twice a year, and just comparison shop. Do the pricing. What if I switch from this company to this company? 30, 40 years ago, there might have been customer service loyalty and customer service benefits to keeping an insurance company for a long time. Those benefits are much smaller now. The personal or customer service cost of switching is very low. And if you can save hundreds on your auto insurance or your renter's insurance or even life insurance or health insurance, do it. It's easy and it can be significant. Cancel subscriptions, and we usually lead off any session we do, what are your financial goals? If you want to make a good use of your time, you want to make good use of this session, sometime today, sometime this weekend, write down 5 financial goals. 5 things you want to achieve, 5 things that matter to you in terms of finance, and this could be anything. Maybe you want to be a millionaire by the time you're 30 or by the time you're 60. Maybe you want to pay off your credit card debt. Maybe you want to buy some new shoes. Whatever your goal is, whatever your goals are, if you write them down and you kind of internalize them and own them, and think about how you're going to achieve them, that's a big win, and that's big progress. When we do the goals, we frequently ask you to look at the short term, next 2, 3, 4, 6 months, but then go out 1 or 2 years, and then go out 5 or 10 years. Your life is going to be very different in 2 or 3 years than it is right now. Your financial life, your career, your personal life is going to be very different. And so the goals you have today will be very different than goals you have in 2, 3, 5, 10 years. But the work you put into your goals today will influence your ability to achieve the goals 2, 3, 5 years. The habits, the priorities. As your income goes up, do you embrace your lifestyle creep, that your lifestyle has to improve or change or become more costly as your income goes up? What habits are you embracing and practices you're embracing today that may impact your personal and financial goals in the future? Debt. Banks and lenders, you drive around downtown, you drive around any major city, the nicest buildings you see are frequently going to be financial institutions. They built those buildings off of us paying interest, whether that's on credit cards or student loans. The nicest buildings in just about any town downtown were paid for by you and me borrowing, paying interest. Many times, this is critical. Student loans are, in theory, a great type of debt because it's giving you the opportunity to build and pursue and achieve a goal that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Certainly works for me. And so it can be very beneficial, but you can't think of it as free money. You have to think of it as having a responsibility to repay, or else you're going to be contributing to the next new big skyscraper or building in downtown. And so when you have debt, make a plan to repay. Whatever your debt is, whether it's $200 on a credit card or $10,000 of student loan, whatever debt you have, make a plan to repay. And that plan can be very generic. Right? If you have a $12,000 car loan and you're in college, your income source may be uncertain, but you have that constant obligation. Your plan just may be to continue making minimum payments or required payments until your income changes and you might have other options. So when you have debt, take 2 minutes to think about it. Why am I using this debt? What am I using it for? And how am I going to repay it? I mean, you don't have to take 2 hours or 2 days. Just take a few minutes to think about your debt. Why do you have it? What are you doing with it? How are you going to repay it? If you don't proactively pay off your debt, retire your debt, then it can become even more and more expensive. If you have $1,000 of credit card debt and you pay it off over 10 years, you will effectively be paying $2,500 for your $1,000 debt. So you spend $1,000 on a trip, airplane, a couple nights hotel, whatever. You spend $1,000, you put it in your credit card, you make the minimum payments for 10 years, and you pay it off over 10 years, you will have paid $2,500. Maybe that's necessary, maybe that's fine, maybe you're okay with that, or maybe you're not. And if you're not, just being aware, being intentional, and being thoughtful about how you're paying that off gives you more control. And if you pay it off over 3 years instead of 10, now you're down to about $1,200 instead of $2,500. And so when you have debt, make a plan to pay it off. All right, couple more, and then we'll get out of here. Strategies of saving more. Number 9, as soon as you get an income, whether it's a recurring paycheck or a new gig, put aside 10%. Move 10% from your checking account, your operating account, over into a saving account, and try to convince yourself that it's untouchable. It may not be untouchable. You may need it for next month's rent or next month's food, but get in the habit of moving the money from checking to savings. And when your income increases and you get a little more financial flexibility, then it will be untouchable, and you'll begin building that fund for the new car, or the new house, or the new business, or whatever. So get in the habit of trying to move 10% from checking to savings every month. Investing. When you're able to do it, do it. The more you can invest in your 20s, the more comfortable your 30s, 40s, 50s, and certainly 60s are going to be. Because compound growth. If the average return is 10% and you get 10% per year, you're not just getting 10% on what you invest, you're getting 10% on all the previous compound growth too. So you go from 10 to, first year it's 10, next year it's 21, and then it's 32%, and the compound growth, you're getting growth on growth or interest on interest. And so if you can, when you can begin investing, do it. And then skipping down to number 15, perhaps the most practical, beneficial, I know I sound very old when I say it like that, investment you can make is to begin thinking about investing in retirement. Not because retirement is imminent, but because the tax and investing advantages to investing in a retirement plan are enormous. When we were in a session last year, one of the questions we got was, I'm 22, should I be investing in a Roth IRA? And I always felt awkward answering that question because you're 22, you may have all sorts of other financial obligations, and you may not want to be putting money away for retirement. But if you can, do it. Roth IRA or an IRA, IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. You put money in, it'll grow and grow and grow, probably, depending on your investments. Best of all, there are no tax consequences. My paycheck I got last Friday, I paid 25% tax on federal income, whatever my number is, 5 or 7% to Louisiana. If that income had been from in an IRA, the current tax would be 0. And so you can put up to $6,000 a year in an IRA or a Roth IRA. If you can put $50 in, you're ahead of the game. Any small steps, when you're 20 years old or whatever you may be right now in college, thinking about the long term, thinking about retirement may seem really abstract. But if you can begin developing behavior, begin developing habits and strategies, whether that's saving, whether that's investing, whether it's retiring debt, or begin investing in a retirement account, do it. It'll pay off over the long term. I'm a big fan of taxes and tax management. We all have to pay taxes. The surest way to not pay taxes is not have income. I like income. I like having money. I like getting paid. I accept paying taxes. I don't necessarily like paying taxes, I accept. And so, but being smart and responsible about how you pay taxes, you don't have to overpay. And so I would encourage everyone, certainly if you're entrepreneurs, certainly if you're getting a lot of non-salary, non-paycheck income from gigs or activities or events, spend a weekend or maybe a day or half a day thinking about researching what tax benefits, tax issues apply to you. All of us have different situations, financial situations, tax situations, but there are probably 5 to 8 specific tax benefits that apply to you. And if you can find those, you'll save hundreds of thousands of dollars. Last one, the entrepreneurship book. There are 8 chapters. Chapter 8 is all about taxes. It's not tax advice, it's tax thoughts, tax perspective. I'm not a tax professional, but if you do have an entrepreneurial style life, and I think as a musician, certainly if that is your primary vocation, or you expect it to be, you are an entrepreneur. And hopefully what's in chapter 1 about building an entrepreneurial team or being an entrepreneur, and what's in chapter 8 about taxes can be of some benefit to you. Comments, questions, thoughts? We could do this for hours, or I could. Fortunately for you, I'm not going to, and our time is up. Any concluding thoughts?
Just one of the something around my mind.
Yeah, we talked about getting a few groups together for those of you who had more questions. One of the things I just mentioned is if you have friends, colleagues, other people who might be interested, we're going to be plugging this generally, but be sure to let them know that's something that's going to be available to them. Particularly for the 2 or 3 of you that are graduate students, if you know other graduate students who'd like to kind of engage in some of these questions in this financial planning more intentionally and a more individual level, it would be helpful to do it with kind of people that are from have a similar goal. So if you know other graduate students who might be interested in participating, definitely let them know. Just tell them to keep an eye out. We're going to be making sure you'll get a plug in your emails for that over the next few weeks.
Yeah, so last thing, October 27th, I think that's the date, we've got a grad school session on debt. You're all invited, you're all welcome, there's free lunch. We'll have more updates on the student loan situation, and we'll talk about paying off debt specifically. Gradschool.louisiana.edu, we'll have the updates, check that periodically. If you're an undergrad, you can enroll, you can attend, you can participate. My last cliche, personal finance is personal. We've got 30 or 40 people in here, we all have different situations. Your situation is different from mine. Your income is different from mine, your history is different from mine, your relationships, your family, your situation is different. That's why we do the individual consulting. That's why we break it down to one-on-one. If any of you want to have a one-on-one session with me, brian.bolton@louisiana.edu, it's on the top of the handout. Contact me, I'd love to sit down and talk about your situation, your goals, and what you may be able to do. Or come sit in on any of the grad school sessions and we'll help you with a smaller community. Comments, questions? All right, if you're done with me, I'm done with you. Thank you, everyone. Good luck with your music, good luck with your college, and don't be a stranger. Reach out to us if you have questions or want help. Thanks, Alex. There's supposed to be a more formal ending. Yeah, it's fine. I'm not really sure what Dr. Yates has planned for the next follow-up session, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think the answer is he doesn't have anything planned, other than we want you to.
Everything